today's jargon term is consequence modification. All right, on Tuesday, our jargon term was antecedent modification. So we've talked before about the three-term contingency, the ABC of behavior. So now we're looking at the opposite end. Let's take a look at our actual definition for consequence modification. Consequence modification, a behavior modification strategy used to minimize reinforcement for problem behavior and increase reinforcement of desirable behavior. You know what? The antecedent modification actual definition left me in the dust, and I was like, huh? This one I get, though. But I bet I wouldn't have gotten it in the first year that my son was diagnosed with autism. So let's go to our somewhat watered-down definition for consequence modification, or intervention. Sometimes people call it a consequence intervention. It's techniques used to separate a behavior from its paycheck. Okay, so we know that in the world, we don't ever engage in a behavior over and over and over again unless it has a paycheck. There's got to be something about it that's personally rewarding to us. Sometimes we refer to it as reinforcing, right? People don't smoke unless there's something about it that's reinforcing to them, right? People don't continually drink unless there's something that's reinforcing. People don't steal money from banks unless there's something reinforcing. There has to be a paycheck in it. But by the way, good behaviors have a paycheck in them too. People who brush their teeth 3 times a day are getting some sort of a personal paycheck for it. And it might be a different paycheck. It might be because they like the way their breath smells. It might be the way they like the way their teeth feel. It might be that they like the way the dentist says, you did a good job, I'm not gonna have to drill anything in your head this time, right? There are lots of different paychecks, and we can't assume that we know what the paycheck is, right? We have to figure out what the paycheck is. But when we're talking about challenging behaviors that our kiddos will participate in on the autism spectrum, we have to remember that there is some sort of a paycheck. So that kid who's having the tantrums all day long is having the tantrums because there is some sort of a paycheck for them. It might be that when they have the tantrum, grandma talks to them in a way and says, honey, let me make you some lemonade and cookies, which makes it worthwhile to continue having tantrums. It may be that having the tantrum is a way to release stress and anxiety, right? But there is for sure a paycheck for the behaviors that somebody is doing on a regular basis. So when we're looking at challenging behavior and we want to change the behavior, we know that there are the 3-term contingency, the A, the B, the C. There's an antecedent, something that happens before. The B is the behavior, the C is the consequence. And as we've talked about many times before on the show, we think we have control over the behavior. But the truth of the matter is that's not where our power is. Our power is in the moment before the antecedent, and a lot of power is in how we react to the behavior and what we do as a result of the behavior. So when we do a consequence modification, we're looking at changing what happened directly after the behavior. If the kid has the tantrum in the grocery aisle where you're, the checkout, they're having the tantrum and mom grabs the lollipop and gives it to them, well, that's the moment after. And what do we think with our rational mind outside of the moment? Do we think that that child's going to be more likely to engage in another tantrum or less likely to engage in another tantrum because mom gave him or her the lollipop? I'm going to guess if I throw a tantrum and you give me a lollipop and I like lollipops, I'm probably going to throw more tantrums as opposed to less. So that lollipop is maintaining that challenging behavior. When we put a consequence strategy in, we try to separate the behavior from whatever the paycheck is. So if the child is throwing a tantrum to get the lollipop, we don't give the lollipop. I love one of our doctors tells the story of a mom who says that she didn't really understand about the ABCs, but what she did understand was whatever the child wants when they're engaging in challenging behavior, you give them the opposite. Well, that's a consequence modification.